you said.
Не слышал ни слова, что вы сказали.
О, тогда я все повторю сначала, может даже.
I guess I'll have to repeat from the very beginning what I've said in that case.
Building on our historic cooperation during the Gulf crisis, President and I discussed our partnership in resolving Yugoslavia and to a comprehensive settlement in the Middle East.
This is a different time, different winds are blowing, countries and states. We need each other today and tomorrow.
Вам слово. Я так понял, что вы почти согласны.
I understood that you almost agree with everything I've said.
What I heard, I liked.
То, что я слышал, мне понравилось.
These were full of very substantial dialogue over a wide spectrum of issues. And I must say that it's kind of difficult for me.
Что вы сказали?
О, тогда я все повторю сначала, может даже.
I guess I'll have to repeat from the very beginning what I've said in that case. It's
1, 2.
1, 2, 3.
Да, вы меня сейчас.
Now, do you hear me now? Do you hear me now?
2 English, 2 there you
All right, let's try that.
Пробуем сейчас, слышите?
Как вы сейчас?
How about now? Do you hear me now? Do you hear me now?
This is ridiculous.
Извините. Это с другой стороны. С другой стороны. Это на эту, на другой. Окей. Да, все в порядке.
Даже ближе. Now, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is everything okay? How about now? Can you hear now? Is it okay now?
Как сейчас?
How about now? Can you hear it now?
This is terrible.
Oh.
They had that in there and I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Try it now.
Теперь попробуем.
Попробую.
I'll try it now. Is it okay? Can you get it now?
Barely, it's all right. Все, еле. А здесь можно громче.
We can make it louder if you wish.
Как сейчас?
How about now? Can you hear it now?
Yeah, a little bit. It's okay. Терпимо, терпимо.
It's tolerable.
Я уже сказал,
I already said,
обращаясь к представителям мировой прессы,
addressing the international press,
мы расцениваем
that
официальный
we
президента
see the official visit of the President of the United States to the Soviet Union as a big event in our relations, as
мирового порядка.
a really global event.
И хочу сказать,
And I
что
want to say
в эти
that these days
была проделана большая
we have done a great deal of work, which I think will create difficulties for me and the President in order to present it in condensed form. And nevertheless,
этот визит
this visit,
подводит в какой-то мере
to some extent, sums up
этапа
the last stage of our cooperation
ответственном,
at a very
может быть, даже драматическом отрезке
fundamental, dramatic
развития событий в мире,
time of development of events in the world,
и президент
when both the President of the United States of America and
были поставлены
the Soviet
в решительное
Union were placed in very difficult circumstances, unusual ones, which demanded from them a great feeling of responsibility in taking very important decisions, which have had consequences and will have consequences in the further development of our cooperation and events in the world. And so, with the President, he and I did not lose time, and immediately at our first meeting, we summarized the overall operation, which would correspond to these changing conditions in the events taking place in our country, our domestic processes, what is going on in our country. And moreover, I felt also a feeling of solidarity. Over the past period, we probably accented rather strongly what our economic relationship should be like, how we have to work together in this important sphere so that relationship in this area would be appropriate to the international. If not, President Bush will say so, that there must be movements in accommodation as well. Obviously, one can do a lot in the area of reform so that we can include ourselves in international economic ties to play by the rules of the game. I like this expression. I haven't invented any other one for the time being, and that's why I use the term I'm familiar with. We have to do a great deal, and we have made our choice to continue reforms, democratic changes, and especially now to move decisively forward towards a market relationship, relationship of property, and so on. In these internal affairs is tied to a great extent to the process of reform in the Federation. And I hope that I have satisfied the interests of the President as of today. We both understand that this is very important for the success of our work. And thus we must change, we must understand and well understand here in the Soviet Union that the basic responsibility for the fate of this country, for reforms, for the making of decisions which are very important, is our prerogative, our responsibility. And obviously, we are very interested in a more fruitful cooperation with the countries of the West, and in the light of continuing the discussion which we had in London within the framework of my meeting at the G7, we spoke also about this subject as well, and I tried to develop the thesis which I expressed in London, that we hope to see accommodating movement of the Western countries, because they too, in their approaches in the sphere of economic cooperation, must accommodate us. We are talking about removing barriers which are connected with decisions taken during the Cold War, during the arms race. This is a different time, different winds are blowing. In this regard, I transmitted certain materials to the President as a memoir. The same was done by the Foreign Minister, Comrade Besmertnik, gave this to the Secretary of State, Mr. Baker, an aid memoir about those projects in which we could cooperate fruitfully. This is a very interesting and substantive project. We would want to act in such a way that in implementing these projects, in all of them to give a possibility to each other to earn money. Otherwise, the process won't go forward unless there is benefit from it. But there are spheres of cooperation where movement foresee and use this, and I've named such spheres, many such spheres. We talked in general about continuing such work. Soon we will have competent groups of specialists headed by important representatives of business circles to realize these projects, and thus I expanded this part, and the other parts will be shorter. For the first time, we discussed very substantially the sphere of bilateral relations, and not only with regard to disarmament, political dialogue, and the resolution of world problems, but this had such a business-like discussion, and I greet this. I welcome it, and I hope that it will have positive consequences. Then the President and I thought about the following. And what do we do next? We've signed a treaty, and what next? We've congratulated each other and our peoples and the world with the fact that such great progress has been accomplished, and as a result of almost a decade of work. And what next? And we did not want simply to be pragmatists here. We wanted to approach to the resolution of this issue, a very serious one, which worries many of us. Also, in a joint statement, we expressed this. I must say that we also moved forward and discussed other things. We tried to also look at many global processes, and in this regard did not pass by many issues of international politics, compared our points of view. Somewhere we, somewhere out in the village, to talk one-on-one, and in an uninhibited manner, we did all of this. This is also important. It's very good. One of the members of the delegation, I asked the question, how do you feel? He's a very important person. And the answer was, like at home. And that's the kind of atmosphere which we worked in. I am satisfied with the fact that political dialogue is developing in this way. Once in this hall, and there are many witnesses here, I want to repeat this. I talked about this to the President. He knows this as well, that I am convinced that without what we have today in our relationship, such a character of Soviet-American relations, we could hardly count on everything that has happened in the past year, and we could hardly have interacted in such a way when the world placed before us very serious problems. If this had been in another time, if we had faced such problems in another time, it would be difficult to say what would have happened. But today we even understand better the value of our cooperation, the fact that this is necessary. So perhaps this is not a question of a platonic love, but a deep understanding of the fact that as countries and states, we need each other today and tomorrow, and I feel and I know that our peoples welcome this direction of development of our relations between our countries. And from this point of view, the visit moves ahead, far ahead our cooperation. And thus I want to ask the pardon of the President and the press. I am the host, and I've maybe misused it, but perhaps I could listen to your comments as well, that I'm speaking so much.
Два слова. Я так понял, что вы почти согласны.
I understood that you're almost agree with everything I've said.
What I heard, I liked.
То, что я слышал, мне понравилось.
No, but
Спасибо за честное признание.
Thank you for being honest.
once again, this might be an appropriate time for Barbara and me to thank the President, Mrs. Gorbachev, for this fantastic hospitality. And yes, I couldn't agree more about the productive nature of the talks, the enhancement of mutual understanding. This is not diplomatic language. In my view, this is fact. You know my views on the START agreement. Indeed, it's the culmination of a long and historic negotiation. And I happen to believe that the winners on this are the young people, not just in the Soviet Union, not just in the United States, but all around the world. And we are taking major steps in transforming our economic relations. President Gorbachev touched on some of this, but we're going to send up the trade agreement to the U.S. Congress. We're going to grant most favored nation status now that the technicalities have been worked out. We have fulfilled thus our Malta goal, Mr. President, of normalizing our economic relationship. We agreed here to tackle the next challenge. President Gorbachev talked about that, furthering economic reform in the USSR and seeking to integrate the Soviet economy into the international system. We're going forward with space cooperation, cooperation in the environment, and we have several joint projects in mind there. Building on our historic cooperation during the Gulf crisis, President and I discussed our partnership in resolving long-standing regional problems. As mentioned, they're putting out statements on Yugoslavia, Central America, and indeed, I want to comment now just briefly on the Middle East before taking your questions. We did reaffirm our mutual commitment to promote peace and genuine reconciliation between the Arab states, Israel, and the Palestinians. And we believe there is an historic opportunity right now to launch a process that can lead to a just and enduring peace and to a comprehensive settlement in the Middle East. We share the strong conviction that this historic opportunity must not be lost. And while recognizing that peace cannot be imposed, it can only result from direct negotiations between the parties, the United States and the Soviet Union pledged to do their utmost to promote and sustain the peacemaking process. And to that end, the United States and the Soviet Union, acting as co-sponsors, are going to work to convene an October press conference designed to launch bilateral and multilateral negotiations. Invitations to the conference will be issued at least 10 days prior to the date the conference is to convene. And in the interim, Secretary Baker and Foreign Minister Besmertnik will continue to work with the parties to prepare for this conference. And I am today asking Secretary of State Jim Baker to return to the Middle East to obtain Israel's answer to our proposal for peace. And again, my thanks to you, and be prepared to take questions along with you, sir.
Пожалуйста. Агентство Тонико.
Один вопрос товарищу Горбачеву.
One question to Comrade Gorbachev. You said that you talked with Mr. Bush about Yugoslavia. What is the essence of that conversation about Yugoslavia?
For the President of the United States of America. I remember, Mr. Bush, when you received me several years ago in the White House, in your capacity that time as Vice President of the United States of America, you said to me that relation between our two countries, that is special relationship between Yugoslavia and the United States. Is that definition still valid? And whether the United States are still supporting Yugoslavian terrorism?
And we have been against the use of force and call upon all sides to abide by the agreements on ceasefire. We, the Soviet Union and the U.S., proceed from the premise that the resolution of issues must be found by the peaceful negotiations and conduct in the Paris Charter. The U.S. and the USSR support the efforts undertaken by the CSE countries, specifically the European Community, steps to resolve the problem. This is the essence of the statement.
And I would only add, sir, that inasmuch as that was a joint statement, that expresses our continued position as well.
Микрофон нет.
The fact that you're going ahead with this peace conference, does that mean that you have Israel's acceptance of the outlines of the your conditions for a peace conference, or is there still a hang-up? Have you got a commitment from Mr. Shamir?
Well, I would wait and let Secretary Baker answer that question after this next meeting. If I had to express a degree of optimism or pessimism, I'd say I'm a little more optimistic today. But the visit for Jim Baker now is for what we said here, to obtain Israel's answer to our proposal for peace. And if I had the answer in my pocket, or he did, I expect that we would say so.
Пожалуйста, Любовцев, Виктор Леонидович.
I have a question to both presidents. You discussed many questions of international issues, bilateral issues. You signed a unique agreement today. What did you leave for the next meeting? And can we say when you're planning to have it? You know, I think that what we discussed today and what we have set in motion, both with regard to a political dialogue and the continuation of the disarmament process and new subjects in the area of economic cooperation and trade, interaction in the resolution of important issues, including regional conflicts, which unfortunately still take place. And especially since we have begun a significant discussion about the concept of future strategic stability. That means that we have many issues to discuss for many meetings ahead. So I think that our contacts will continue, but I would express myself in favor of the following, perhaps to travel and discuss issues of foreign affairs. But nevertheless, the President and I have developed a method of conversation. We exchange opinions by telephone. As soon as we have a need, concerns, or simply to exchange opinions about something important, we do this by telephone, and this takes place on a regular basis. And secondly, we regularly exchange letters, and this exchange of opinions has not ceased even in recent days when we have many channels in order to support this very high level of cooperation which we have, and I think great role will be given to our departments, the ministries of foreign affairs, but
Soviet president and the president of the United States. And with this, President Gorbachev talked about arms control, regional problems, and other problems. But as this dynamic economy begins to move, the chance for a dynamic economy here, there's going to be much more to talk about on the economic side than we've ever had before. Cooperation, partnerships, joint ventures, the whole approach to economics that he has endorsed that is going to benefit, I believe, the Soviet Union, and I think there's enormous potential for the United States. So it is my view that we've got plenty to talk about, and I, for one, would be prepared to, as I've stated before, to have a meeting where there's not a crisis out there to be managed. Rather we can be sure that we're not two ships passing in the night, the analogy I used, I believe, in Malta appropriately. And I look forward to future meetings, because you get a lot done where you can't sign a 3-point program or a 20-point protocol, but a lot is done just by the kinds of conversations we had today.
Gorbachev, there was an ugly border incident in Lithuania last night in which a number of Lithuanians